I am calling to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for the Warrenville Public Library District. It is Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. It is 7:07 p.m. and I am going to do a roll call. Trustee Lazan.
Here.
Trustee Pika.
Present.
Trustee Schmidt.
Here.
Trustee Richardson.
Here.
Trustee Warren.
Present.
Trustee Stoll.
Present.
Trustee DeRocher is here, as well as Executive Director Stolman and the department heads, except all. All right. I would like to entertain a motion for approval of the agenda, and we do need to take off. We have a.
Nope.
No, yeah, okay. No changes.
I move that we approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees on Wednesday, September 18th, 2023. Second.
Motion was made by Trustee Pika and seconded by Trustee Lazan. Thank you. Trustee Stoll.
That's a roll call.
Oh,
Do roll call.
sorry, I'm a little dyslexic that way. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, the agenda is approved. Any presentations? Anybody want to sing a song? No, okay. Any public comments? Doesn't look like there's any public here. No correspondence that I'm aware of.
Nope.
All right, we're gonna move right on to the consent agenda. Secretary Stoll, take it away.
Okay, item number A, approved minutes of the August 21st, 2024 regular board meeting. Item B, receive and file financial report for August 2024. Item C, adopt ordinance number 24-25-02, budget and appropriation ordinance for 2024 through 2025 fiscal year and certificate of authenticity. Item D, adopt resolution number 228, resolution to determine estimate of funds needed for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Item E, approve chief fiscal officer certificate of estimated revenue for 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Nice, thank you so much. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the consent agenda read by Secretary Stoll. Second.
Motion was made by Trustee Lazan and seconded by Trustee Pika. Trustee Stoll.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Richardson. Aye. Trustee Schmidt.
Aye.
Trustee Pika.
Aye.
Trustee Lazan.
Aye.
Trustee DeRocher votes aye. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to regular agenda, item 8A.
I move that we pay invoices in the amount of $55,716.51 for the period of August 22nd, 2024 through September 18th, 2024, including electronic payments and checks numbers 10031 through 10178.
Second.
Motion was made by Trustee Stoll and seconded by Trustee Warren. Is there any further
Aye.
discussion on the payments? No. All right, Trustee Lazan.
Aye.
Sorry.
I knew it.
Trustee Pika.
Aye.
Trustee Schmidt.
Aye.
Trustee Richardson.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Stoll.
Aye.
Trustee DeRocher votes aye. Thank you. Item 8B.
I move that we transfer $200,000 from the commercial checking account to the operating checking account.
Thank you so much. Seconded, motion was made by Trustee Pika and seconded by Trustee Lazan. Here we go again. Trustee Richardson.
Aye.
Trustee Schmidt.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Lazan.
Aye.
Trustee Stoll.
Aye.
Trustee Pika.
Aye.
Trustee DeRocher votes aye. Motion is passed for the transfer of funds. Unfinished business.
Page 26.
26, item 9A, take it away.
Well, first we need a-
Executive Director.
I move we approve and adopt new policy number 330, accessibility as presented. Effective immediately.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Now for discussion. Thank you. So the motion was made by Trustee Stoll and seconded by Trustee Richardson. All right.
Well, I don't have a whole lot that new to add, since last month. We ran it by the DEI committee and they reviewed it. Um, it seemed happy with it. There weren't any corrections other than one minor typo, so. There's
Excellent.
not much new to it, so.
This is a policy, so we are gonna do a voice vote.
Roll call.
Next, again. So good you're sitting next to me, Heather. All right.
Going to too many meetings, open meetings act.
Trustee Stone,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
Me too.
it's a whole movement, trustee Richardson. That was an I, yes?
Yes, it's an aye.
It's an I.
I think so.
Trustee Warren, okay.
Aye.
Yes.
Trustee Richardson, okay. Trustee Schmidt,
I,
trustee Pika,
I,
trustee Lasan. Aye. Trustee DeRosa votes aye. We now have a new policy.
Yay.
about
And it has a number.
accessibility. And it has a number. All these changes in a month. All
That
right,
was the one change.
okay, now on to item 10A. Review of the first draft of the ordinance, the levy ordinance. Discussion only. You have to make a motion.
Nope, no motion is needed.
Do you have anything to say?
Well, I mean, I wrote out most of the details there,
A
so.
lot of details.
A lot of details, but they're all important details.
Mhm.
It's worth, repeating them year after year. But so the proposed levy that I've got, in the draft is 11% higher than our final tax extension for this year. So it'll be $2,578,421. So, but as I spelled out in the PTEL section there, just because we're raising it 11% overall, does not mean everybody's taxes are going up 11%. There is that PTEL cap, which this year is lower than the past couple of years, so it's going to be 3.4%. But everyone I've heard says you should do this. I don't entirely understand the exact mechanics of how it works, but they recommend levying for more than that cap because then you can capture all that extra growth, whether it's home remodel or whether it's new builds or whatnot. It's capturing all that extra growth. Yeah, explain the exact mechanics of how it is this is working. I'm not quite sure, but that is the recommendation. But
And I can see how one of our members might look at it and go, wait a minute.
absolutely, absolutely. But I can say I made a spreadsheet recently to kind of track all the past, or at least the last 10 or 15 years worth of levies and the proposed versus the PTEL cap and whatnot. And so we've pretty much, there's maybe 1 year we didn't, I only printed out a couple, but most of the years we levied way higher than what the cap was. And it always came back to being about a little over like 0.5% to 2% over the actual cap is the amount extra that we got in our levy. So that just kind of demonstrates that we're capturing that new growth. So it's not a straight, 3.4 increase. We'll probably get a 5% increase because we're capturing all that extra new value.
There is definitely growth happening.
so is there a limit for the levy of what we can raise it? Like, is it statutory limit or can you just?
Yes, well, so that PTEL, the property tax extension limitation law.
Okay.
Is it always our limit is either 5% or whatever the consumer price index is for that year, whichever is lower. So the last couple of years, the CPI has been 6%, 7%, whatever it is. So it's been higher than the 5%. So 5% has been our maximum amount. This year, the CPI is 3.4%. So that's going to be the cap instead of the 5%. So, but what the county does for us is so I'm levying 11% over, which obviously is much higher than 3.4%.
Yeah.
But what the county does is they roll it back to the acceptable amount. So no matter what we levy, it is always going to be under the legal increase.
So if we levied 3.4% based on exactly where we stand today, we wouldn't have the opportunity to capture the dollars on the growth.
Gotcha.
And so I'm just not sure why we have to go as far as 11%. Like, why wouldn't we do like 6 or 7?
It's one of those mysteries.
It's a mystery.
We could do less. Again,
I just.
I'm not entirely certain, like-
Mystery.
I understand the mystery part, but I think that part of it is we don't really know what the new growth or the increased property values are due to, say, remodeling or whatever. Whereas, again, the county has those final figures. So if we were to say levy 7%, but maybe possibly the increased growth might be actually 8%, then we would lose that 1% because we could never capture it again. So it doesn't mean next year it's like, oh, well, then, yeah, we
We should
should,
get it next year, but we would,
right.
okay, I get it.
So, I
And
mean,
so, and I wanted to err on the side of caution of continuing to have it a little bit higher, just because it seems like the last couple of years, Warrenville's been growing a lot. So I wanted to make sure that we had that high enough number to capture that.
right, and I mean, again, to say if we went down to 10, sure, we might, it might even be knocked down to 5, but. It's always, I think, hard to estimate from our viewpoint. Again, we can see the new development, but it's not like we go around and check our neighbors' houses and say, oh, you put in a new kitchen this year, or you added a bathroom, great. So I think that's what's hard to know what the increased value is, so.
And so, as a talking point, if folks in town ask, this is more a strategic point, so we are maximizing the amount of money that we're capturing. But we can tell them, again, the county will roll us back to the acceptable legal amount. So if you have done nothing to your house and nothing has changed, your taxes are going, the library taxes are going to go up 3.4%, because that is the cap. It's just this extra amount is to capture that extra value of somebody who remodeled or built a new home or all that. So, but if somebody is just freaking it out about their just own house, but nothing has happened, you can reassure them things are in place at the countywide level, that they are only going to raise that cap and not 11%. Not happen to them. So it takes a while to wrap your brain around it,
Yeah,
but
I think it's also appropriate to bring up the idea that it allows us to get money that we need to operate the library as opposed to having to do a referendum.
right. I touched on that a bit there. I think in past years, I may have copied more of what Sandy had written last year, but I know in previous years she'd mentioned it. And I went to a finance thing for new directors last year, and he talked about, he gave a spreadsheet of like 10 or 15 years worth of maximizing your levy increase. Say it was at 1%, just for easy figures. And then he had one where it was occasionally at 0%, 0%, 0.5%, 1%, 0%, and it went up and down. And by the time he got to the end, the library that had maximized was in a much healthier place, and the one that hadn't had maybe there was a couple of years that they were in the red and whatnot. And but the point is, you can be like, oh, let's do a low amount this year. Next year we'll catch up. There's no catching up. Once you don't do that maximum amount, you won't get that back again. So, unless you do the referendum. So
The referendum is basically for us not being good financial stewards. So,
right.
sorry,
So
populace.
it's looking at it, some folks might say, oh, you're always raising, but it's so that we don't have to do that. And it's, again, as I outlined, like, it's gone up, and I realize this makes people's costs go up too, but the library taxes are a drop in the bucket compared to the city. But this helps ensure that we can keep trying to have competitive salaries and keep good staff, and we can keep up with, rising costs. Like whether it's building maintenance or database increases, subscription cost increases, and what have you. So, and then at a certain point, we increased those benefits, so we were needing that sort of increase. But at a certain point, then when we are once again in the spot where we're not running that deficit, then we can start having that surplus, which we can then put back into the special reserve fund. So then for future, if we want to do a building project, we don't have to go to a referendum. We will have some money in the bank with which we can do those projects, because buildings eventually age, find new things that you want to do.
That's what we did the last time.
Right. And so in terms of that, once we get to that point where we can start saving again, then it is still in my mind, important to keep maximizing because it just helps us build up that savings, do the things we need to do rather than all of a sudden being in a panic and going, we need a new boiler, we don't have any money. So. And so people look at savings as being like, what are you doing with that money? And it's like, well, we are saving it for the various things. So,
That happened in St. Charles, they were saving money, and then they got brought all in and they had to like refund all the money to the taxpayers that they were saving. So there, yeah, it's,
and that is a
it's a
choice.
whole thing. I mean, I have neighbors complain to me all the time about the taxes.
And there was
Yeah,
the one
like
year
you.
before this went in, before the tax cap or whatever, where there'd been. I can't remember which taxing district, if it was a park district or a library district. Had, gonna be nice, we're not gonna charge any tax this year, so it was zero. Then that went in and now all of a sudden they had no money to run. That year, so that's the other thing you have to be careful about, wanna be generous, but.
And I will say, I came from somewhere where the bill frequently asking us to, have low percentage raises. Because they wanted, showed up on their tax bill that was represented by the village, and they wanted to show that they were trying to keep the taxes low. Which I understood and was fine, but it also meant that after enough years, we were behind in salaries and we were bleeding people because everybody was like, oh, we love it here, but we could take more. And we were coming up with, aging building issues and we weren't having enough money in our building fund in order to take care of it. So, and I ran numbers and like, well, if we had been doing even just a minimal amount consistently over all these years, we would be in this much better spot. So Warrenville is a smaller community and we have a healthier budget than where I came from. So, in my mind, that is testament.
Yes.
I think it's a great thing that you all are supportive of the library and want to keep us in that healthy situation. I totally understand.
Yeah.
Folks that are concerned about their taxes. But I think, that's why I tried to outline all this. It's a good framework to give people that may not assuage their frustrations, but hopefully gives them a little perspective to say, we are trying to keep the library in a healthy position where we can continue to be a great resource that we are.
But the other thing a lot of people don't realize, is like, I remember dealing with people complaining about when the post office raised their rates. They're complaining, oh, why are these people getting all this more money? And, I'm not getting much of a raise. It's like, did your electric bill go up? Did your gas bill go up? They don't realize that what you pay for a stamp being increased is also paying for all of that stuff. The gas for the trucks to deliver and everything else. People don't realize all of this other stuff. So like even trying to explain to people that yes, the increase on new taxes, it's also because our electric went up and everything else. I'm like, well, it's complicated. They don't understand.
Right.
Everything to operate your house went up, but everything that operate the library also.
Exactly. And then I know sometimes people will bring up salary or people getting paid.
Yeah.
It's like, well, try and stay competitive because if you don't pay people well enough and you bleed people and you're always constantly trying to rehire, then frankly, that's a bad use of the taxpayer money is because we're wasting our time having to continually
Train
rehire,
people.
and retrain people as opposed to maintaining good staff and making it worthwhile to focus on the actual service rather than always
And that's
rehire.
why we made the changes we made 2 years ago.
So I had a question, at what point will we see some results from, say, the special census, when we see any gain in income from that, or is that really?
So from the special census, I mean, I think if there's more people paying taxes, then we already
Right.
are getting
yes,
that.
okay.
Aside from in the TIF districts. Whereas we're getting the TIF reimbursements that we request each year, which I put in the request in, I think it was July or beginning of August, so we're here
Okay,
hopefully next month. So we get a reimbursement for that, but it's not the full tax amount. So once the TIF district is up and finishes, then we'll realize a lot more tax income with those new residents. But in terms of, so in that case, the new population isn't necessarily helping us. I think it helps the city more in terms of having those numbers like thresholds for applying for grants, and it's, the per capita, the per head count that they can apply for. We have a per capita grant that we do every year. But the amount of money that we're gonna get extra is gonna be probably a couple $100. Not, it won't be the same benefit for the city. And in fact, probably one or two of our database sorts of things, like, they're all over the place in how they, do their tiered pricing for folks. But some of them have it by population, and a lot of the population tiers are 0 to 15,000. And most likely with this special census, we're gonna go over 15,000, which means that's gonna bump us up into the next tier pricing. So things will actually probably, I envision, probably get a little bit more expensive for us in some respects. So, but in terms of just the levy, at the moment, the other than, if it hasn't already been helping us, the special census. It makes sense.
All right, any other discussion about that? Okay, we're gonna move on to item 10B, approving the minor bank account changes. I have a motion.
I move that we approve staff to have our current bank, Fifth Third Bank, change our savings account to a public funds max saver account and our checking account to a business advantage public funding.
Motion was made by trustee Stoll and seconded by trustee Warren. What I have you to say?
So it's really, I wasn't even sure if it was necessary to have you all vote on it, because it's truly behind the scenes, they're just modifying the behind the scenes essential labels of what our accounts are to be more public funds, which is what we are.
Yeah,
But-
actually, I don't remember ever voting on the type of account that we have.
I wasn't, I figured if we were moving accounts or changing banks, absolutely you guys
Yeah.
can vote. I just wasn't sure whether this was necessary, but I just figured,
I think that.
as a matter of course of keeping you informed, I figured. we put it up.
There is an increase in percentage.
So that is hopefully, that was the conversation I had with him a couple weeks ago, hopefully with the Feds making a tweak to their interest rates, hopefully we are still going to get that same. Percentage.
What was the slightly higher API you were hoping for?
I was hoping for 3%, 3.5%, maybe 4%. My wife's library has 5 point something,
Oh, really?
but she's using a different bank.
Right, yeah.
It's a similar account, but it's a different bank, so that is probably why. But so I thought, well, when I saw hers and I'm like, oh, we're only getting 1.09%. I'm like, I feel like I've been happy with our interest rate, but not really knowing a whole lot about interest rates. And then when she told me what hers was, I was like, oh, we should be able to get a little bit more than that. So
Now with
2%
the
isn't,
Fed's changing the rates.
Is there a time limit that? again,
he did not express that to me. I
because
hope there was not.
on Barbara's page. that
But when
today.
Jack and I first sat down with the person who wasn't in charge of making these changes for us, he gave an estimation from what he thought was based on these changes coming from the past.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that they gave us that with that in mind, because they probably know way more about it than we do. So,
Just curious.
so hoping that is still on the table, the 2%. That wasn't necessarily part of the motion, but even the 2% is almost double what we're currently making. So while it's not as high as I had hoped, it's still a great increase, I think. So
Every little bit.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and do this vote then. Trustee Lazan?
I,
It is totally mixed up in my head. It all is all in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have it.
She can do roll call if she wants to.
I guess I would assume.
I just have it in my head.
So the finances, it had to be a roll.
yeah, with money, it has to be roll call.
Money.
Money or policy.
Said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money and Jason.
There's no harm in them.
I move we do a roll call.
Oh,
Okay,
Honestly.
Yeah.
okay.
Trustee Lazan?
Aye.
Trustee Pika?
Aye.
Trustee Schmidt? Aye. Trustee Richardson? Aye. Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee Stoll?
Aye.
Trustee Jeroen votes aye.
You make it easier, we'll just do all roll calls, and we don't have to worry about voice votes.
Yeah.
I'd rather have some that we could do.
It took less time to do that. than it did this to us.
Oh, thank you for this. Good. All right, we're on to the director's report and Jason is passing out our strategic planning timeline.
Yes, so we finally figured out a time for our first meeting, which happened to be today. So we had our first meeting this afternoon and we went over the timeline, so I updated a couple of the tweaks that we made. So I hadn't necessarily put it on the agenda so much because I wasn't sure if we'd have, I'd be ready to update you tonight or not. But so this is what we've got as far as a timeline. There's 3 different phases. There's phase 1 learning, phase 2 green, and phase 3 of June. So essentially phase 1 learning is all that data gathering and then creating a report from that data. So that involves coming up with our surveys for staff, for the board, excuse me, for the community and our stakeholders. Excuse me. And then planning and hosting some focus groups. Again, for the staff, for the board, and for the community. And so that is to, do an environmental scan and SOAR analysis, and this generally get some input that we didn't ask necessarily in the survey. So that is that period. So that would run from, I guess, today, since we started today, and running through February. And then our phase 2 dream is the reviewing of that data and the brainstorming. We're dreaming about what we can do. So just kind of some, from the session I had watched, they called it retreats, but I feel like a brainstorming is more cool. But
Will that be part of our March meeting or will we need to?
we could do it as part of the March meeting, or we can schedule a separate one, or I mean, we can do it as a committee of the whole meeting.
I would say.
And do it.
make the whole-
Do it right
And I
before.
I thought it in the past, we've usually done something like this on a Saturday afternoon where we can devote a little more time. Because my feeling is it's always been like 1 to 2 hours, and I can't imagine adding that on to a regular board meeting. That seems like it's gonna be quite late, but.
In the past, we have had other people facilitating, and I haven't always found that particularly time efficient. So, let's just say that. I'm really glad that, Jason and the staff have taken this up, honestly. And I feel like we aren't gonna be under that much of a time crunch, where if we did a 1-hour committee of the whole meeting, and we felt like we needed more time, we could either push it into the board meeting, or we could do it the following month. What are your thoughts about that?
I think we could do it. I could see maybe between a 1 to 2 hour.
Maybe we don't
whatever.
wanna wait a whole.
Somewhere between 5 and 6 o'clock, I could see if we wanted to do it in March, committee of the whole meeting before the.
It's gonna be hard for me to get here at 5 o'clock if that's the time we start. I can
Well,
get
we
here by 5:30, but.
We can always schedule a separate night. When we get closer to the time, we'll have a better sense of how long we think the focus group might last. I know from the webinar that I had watched, her ideal was, like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
we are
a
not
lot.
doing that to you or staff.
Thank you.
Absolutely not.
Because some of our consultants have in the past.
If we can swing it in an hour, I would love to do that. I just want to make sure we have enough time for discussion, is all. So, but we can tentatively plan on in March, for March's meeting that we start at 6 o'clock. And plan an hour for it, but if getting closer to the time, if we think, oh, you know what, I think maybe we need an hour and a half or 2 hours, then
Yeah,
maybe
why
we
don't you
can.
just keep us apprised based on what the committee's thoughts are?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy to come in on a different time. But I don't know how everybody else feels. I just also know this is a time that people are traveling. March, it's your travel time. So we want to, be cognizant of that and not try to add on too many things. And if we're gonna try to schedule something separate, the sooner we do it, the better. Okay.
To that point, I'll be gone for the entire dream segment. But do you have templates for the survey for the community, or is that gonna be something that has to be constructed?
So that we're going to construct, we certainly have the last survey that we did, the last strategic plan to, or, springboard if we want. There are other.
I'm just
examples.
curious. I have no opinion either way. I just wondered what type of work is it?
So yeah, we're gonna work on scheduling the committee a second meeting so that we can talk about survey. So yeah, so that's the phase 2, phase 3 then is the do, so then the committee will meet. Put together the plan. And then present it to you all, ideally in May. For you to review, and then in June, hopefully you'll approve it. And then we'll work on the details of the, I think the goal or the idea is. Not to set a whole bunch of things for all 5 years. Or the specific activities to meet some of the strategic initiatives and goals. But the activities that you associate with them, to kind of do that on a yearly basis, so. What can we do this year towards the strategic plan, and then next year, review what we did, what worked. And also 5 years is, some folks might argue that 5 years is too long for a strategic plan, but this is an intensive process that I don't want to have to repeat too often as well. Maybe that's laziness on my part, I don't know, but it's also, I want everybody to have, for it to be manageable, so.
The other thing too, when I was looking at the schedule, we'll have to be cognizant that that's also going to involve the personnel committee and its director evaluation too, in that, yeah, in that same time frame.
Right, and, I think 5 years is fine as long as it's a dynamic document and
That's
we're
right.
always circling.
Yeah, living document.
That's right.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say next, and that's part of I think the reason for having that kind of yearly review, and yearly setting, the brainstorming of
It needs to be
activities
relevant.
towards the goals. Is so that we can keep it relevant and be like, oh, something happened and this is now not needed. Strike that from the plan.
Kind of like what
Just
happened
adjust.
with the last one with COVID through that, it's kind of tossed everything out the
Well,
window.
we had to adjust our priorities, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
We really had to focus on some other things.
right,
So. Thank you, Jason. This is
Yeah.
great to have this.
yeah.
This
I think it's
plan.
particularly great to have it in-house. I know it's an extra on your part and the management staff, but to Barbara's point, sometimes outsiders are not as helpful as people who are close to the situation.
Hard to
I
tell
don't-
sometimes. I've seen
You don't want to
consultants
feel
that are
way off.
awesome and
Right. They
very
can
to
be-
the point and are great, and I have others who, like you said, maybe not as efficient as you would have hoped for.
And it's more cost efficient.
That is
It
true.
sure is, but I also don't want to suffer from myopia. Myopia, myopia. Like, we need to really be looking at what our community needs from the library. And not just think that we're already doing it all, So we really need to be open-minded about it. I mean, hopefully, we're doing as much as we possibly can, but there's always something that kind of pops up through these experiences where we're like, okay, now we're really going to work on this.
We'll find out.
And
Hopefully with the special census too, we'll get more information.
yeah, well, maybe.
Because again, too, now that we've got, you could say more numbers to draw from, that find out what some of these new people would like to see.
All right.
I will email everybody copies to have a
Oh, good. Thank you.
digital copy.
Thank you. Does any board member have any other comments about Jason's report? Just thank you.
Good job.
Lots happening.
Well, I appreciate the inclusion about the comment from the public,
Yes.
the book bands.
I did as well, so it's certainly nice to get that support. Especially like that last statement of thanks to you and the board for keeping our library collection filled with items of interest to everyone in the community, not just the library. I think that right there is great, so it's nice to hear. And like I said in my response, that one story that we got from National Library Week house last year. I love it that my kids can come here and see themselves represented in the books and selection like that. That right there is exactly why the intellectual freedom. is so important.
I want to circle back to the elections moment that's on the director's report. The open positions will be Jill's and Sandy's, is that correct? So have both of you made your decision about whether you're running?
I have,
You have and you're not running?
I am,
You are running.
yes,
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
yeah. In fact,
Wonderful.
I do have petitions here, if anybody cares.
I'm so glad to hear that. Wonderful. And Jill, have you made your decision?
I am,
You're not ready. I'm sorry about that, and but it's been just so great having you on board. I think that we need to really try to generate some interest out there as much as we can. You have
I
a thought,
handed off
Connie?
my packet to somebody already.
Ah, excellent.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I talked to a member of the public that, and encouraged her. Oh, really? MC, they're her initials.
Oh, no, no. Okay.
I talked to two people actually, and one I think is not interested, but the other, one listener on the backside of you. Okay, anyway,
Anyway,
I talked to two people, and so I don't know if it's appropriate to say or not, but I did tell them how much fun it is.
well, I've reached out to two people myself, and I got feedback from one that they're not interested in the 6-year term. That's a forward board member here. And she's like, if you're really desperate, I might do, 2-year thing if you need to appoint somebody. And that was Amy Arlo. And then somebody else that I know in the community also, I reached out to and haven't heard back from. I just, I would love to see a wider representation of our populace here. And so if you have a way, a way to connect with someone from the Latino population or from another, there are many populations in our city. Especially people that you know of that are regular or library users. That's the most important thing to me, is that someone really, I don't want to just have somebody in the spot because they represent the community. I really want someone who really cares about the library and uses it. So, anyway, if it would be on our minds, because we're kind of in that place right now where we need to be encouraging them to get their packet and get on with it. So, good.
I just would like to recognize Kathy, and that's her to work with, but she's been in her report talking about generating interest and adding it to the website, so that's very important, thank you.
Kathy, your additions to the website, are they in more than English? Are they in Spanish as well?
They are not.
Is that something we
Based
could
on
consider?
how people have their own browsers set up, is some of the content comes in, or I could add it in Spanish as well.
Well, I was actually just wondering, because I'm not even sure how much use there is on the website. I was wondering if it'd be possible to create a poster, small poster, to post in Spanish in the youth area and in the adult area.
They asked, are the meetings going to be conducted, also in Spanish?
Yeah.
No,
That's my question, I just,
Yeah.
if they're not bilingual, how are they going to participate in the meeting?
what I was just trying to do is generate interest.
You might get more than just interest.
Yeah.
Good point. That's a good point.
I
I was just trying to get somebody to have eyes on the idea. That was my only goal.
Well, I'm not against the poster, but I am concerned about the bilingual aspect. If they can't read the English, maybe I'm missing something, but are they gonna read the packet? And
My point wouldn't be that they can't read it, it's just that they probably would gloss over it, but having it in Spanish may invite them to read it. That may be an assumption on my part.
Maybe
So,
post to it both.
both, it could be both.
Well, I would say the one thing is then if they felt more included by reading it in Spanish, not that, but it's like, oh. Because otherwise sometimes I think people assume because it's all English, so they only want English speakers, not somebody that is necessarily bilingual or multilingual. So.
Maybe we should pass this question on to someone in the staff who is bilingual, who actually would know more about this than we do.
Well, that was going to be my next step.
That's
I mean, I originally thought.
I mean, they would understand more about
Pick
it.
Diana's brain about.
So based on my understanding from our few staff members who do speak Spanish, and that is, if we're going to advertise something, in another language, like Spanish or some other language, we have to have those resources. So, and that's why I just said, if we're going to advertise about board members
Right.
in another language, then again, it would seem to imply that we would be conducting meetings also with another language, maybe not like side by side, every time we say something in English, or all of our materials would have to be also produced in another language. So, I mean, we could advertise, sure.
I'm not following that logic, Kathy. Just because we announce something in a language doesn't mean that we are going to default to that language.
I think that the idea is, because if you, somebody said if you weren't bilingual, so the only way to access the information was by reading in Spanish, then the idea being that then if that person was interested, they're going to come and maybe not be able to speak English or read the English material. If the only way to reach them is with this Spanish material.
Yeah.
Whereas if we're promoting a program that is being led by a Spanish speaking staff person, then that is okay, then that person's coming to experience a program in their language, or we have Spanish books so they can collaborate. Books, whereas if we're prepared to have all the board packets or meetings.
No, I would agree with that for sure. I just don't want to feel exclusive. I mean, that feels exclusive to me, like, that we're not trying to invite people. Whatever.
Can I?
Seem to have, I'm not expressing myself very clearly.
As far as the package, is there the capability on someone's computer to, translate it for the, like, can people have that? You know, like, I have a document in English, can I just highlight it and say Spanish and it'll do that? Is there
You can.
technology that will do that?
There's some limitations.
Look,
to
I
that,
do
though.
it, she sticks her phone on it.
There's definitely limitations to it.
Okay. I do think if it's gonna spark interest, that it's not a bad idea to put it in Spanish, as, you know, I think your idea is nice. I do see Kathy, I just crediting both, it is, I'm starting to, part, because it's, I do like the invitingness of it. Yeah, but I don't know about the capabilities, you know, of the functioning of it when we're meeting.
Yeah.
I would just sort of ask the staff.
Yeah, I'd really like to default to someone who knows the community, you know,
That's what they
because we are a bunch of white people sitting around here thinking we know, we don't.
Yeah.
We really don't.
Another reason to have someone from that community on our
Well, no,
board.
but.
That's when we get into staff who deals with that community. They would
Absolutely,
know it better.
absolutely.
I'll ask staff.
Okay. We will go down that road. Maybe we'll get someplace, maybe we. All right. I think we're gonna move on to other department head reports. Do any board members have any comments on other department head reports?
Again, I'd like to thank all the department heads and managers, even Paul, who's not here, for submitting so much information to us and providing us such a great picture of what you do. I mean, it's very much appreciated. Learn a lot about what's going on in the library. And because it's me, I'm going to ask, what was the cost of getting the air conditioner fixed?
It was in part, what was the cause of it?
Cost.
Oh.
It's money, I'm asking. No. Why else would I be asking?
Did we get the bill?
Well, here is it. Is it
Is it
10,000 or
No.
5,000?
No.
I couldn't tell from your description of what was. Okay,
It wasn't, I don't even think
It wasn't.
$1,000.
okay, that's. I like it.
You were asking because you were concerned about whether we
No,
need to
the way
be,
it reads, it wasn't working in that part of it. And it was
Well,
like,
for
oh,
mechanical, it's $549.
it's acceptable. That covers the
And
service.
she actually showed me how to use companies.
Okay, I'm happy.
It was worth it.
Yes, I'm happy now, Jamie, thank you. I do have a question for the safety committee or Jason, I don't, it doesn't matter who. The first aid kits, I don't know exactly what we are providing. But I do recall in some situations in my previous life, supplying certain things had a legal component to it. And I just was curious, what's in those safety kits? I mean, we were even told we couldn't provide Band-Aids, and I don't expect us to go to that, but one of our lawyers had said there's possible reason you would not supply a Band-Aid or aspirin or things like that.
I knew medication was definitely out.
Yes, I just was curious if we consider that or what's in these kits.
So there's our safety kit, the safety tools that we use. And then there's also the first aid.
That's
kit.
for what I'm thinking, the first aid kit.
The first aid kit is largely for staff.
Okay,
We are putting Band-Aids out at the desks.
that, you know, like I said, that was extreme in my situation, but I just wanted to make sure we don't have to be an aspirin or anything like that in there. The patron comes up and says, you have any aspirin, that we're not. Yes.
And as part of our manual, the procedures, we're leaning towards the, give it to the patron to help apply it to themselves rather than us being. the
Yes,
ones
I,
off the floor.
right. We should not be involved in applying it.
So do we have a policy, because I know it went so far in our office, to say that, say, if you have aspirin in your drawer, you cannot dispense it to anybody else. So I don't know, again, how far, so that if there is, if somebody says, oh gee, I've got a terrible headache, do you have aspirin, and it's verboten to be able to say, oh, here you go, and you're gonna have to find it in your own Walgreens and get it yourself. Just because the risk of,
Liability.
I don't remember coming across anything in the personnel handbook that said anything.
I
like
think it's
that.
sort of a remain of, you could say the time and all placements, because, I mean, again, you don't know what's in your bottle that you may or may intentionally gives. Or again, what somebody may or may not be allergic to that they could have a reaction.
But now, I have a question on that. It's like for me, when they were on the phone with 911, they were telling them to give me baby aspirin while they were waiting for the paramedics to get there. Is that a liability for us, for staff, to give that to somebody? When 911 is telling them to give that to the person?
We have talked about our liability issues here. I don't know if that would be covered under, the Samaritan Act.
Well, yeah, I mean, because 911 is telling you to do it.
Right. So when I reached out to Roger, he responded with, if it was more of the CPR or AED,
Yeah,
when we get to that stage. Said no, if staff have not received that training, they should absolutely
oh, no,
not
right,
apply.
they don't. When every 2 years, they have to
Theoretically, we
redo it.
would Samaritan, but if you've not received the library sanctioned training, then that makes you liable if something should go wrong.
Mhm.
But he said, but if you've received that training and something goes wrong, you should be covered. It's, good intention, as long as it wasn't done, with the, hey, give me some money or malicious intent and whatnot, then you should be fine. So I would think, under that umbrella, if 911 is sitting there telling us, go ahead and give this to somebody, while you wait for the paramedics, I would consider that. It's not a training, but it is instruction by emergency.
By emergency
Personnel.
personnel, so I would think we would be covered.
I think
Because
we'd
that's
be more
emergency
liable if
personnel.
we didn't.
Yeah, I was
Honestly.
getting to say
Right, yeah, we didn't follow the instructions that we were given by.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd be more
I
liable,
think
but.
So in other words, like if they said, okay, give her baby aspirin, like, oh, I'll give her regular aspirin instead, then I could see where that'd be an issue.
I don't think there's any aspirin in that. I will check all of our kits right now,
But-
when I leave.
But I
don't
mean,
think
yeah,
there's
that's the-
anything in there to give.
Was Heather
Cause that's
talking
what they just said, exactly,
giving it
baby
to a
aspirin.
patron or to a fellow employee?
fellow employees.
So there's a whole difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
don't legislate.
Maybe
saying,
I was
you know,
gonna
like-
say, I don't wanna get involved
But
with
the-
that.
You know,
Two consenting adults.
if you've got, you know, a member out there who, you know, is obviously having heart problems. And you call 911 and they're telling you to give them baby aspirin.
We will have to say, we don't have it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, who knows?
And when you said, you used the word obviously, like, sometimes people get it and they're having some medical situation. We wouldn't know what that is.
Yeah,
So-
and this was instructions from the 911.
So,
Sure. But yeah, well, we literally, if they were to give us that instruction, we could not comply, because we don't have
Yeah.
it to give, so.
Okay.
Actually, we're pretty close to the station.
I can-
Quick.
I mean, it's amazing how much that even the paramedics, you know, I mean, they were relaying my EKG and everything to the hospital and everything. It's just.
Take them a minute, get on the truck.
And a police officer, which would come first,
Yes.
Yeah,
and it's likely they would have.
Baby aspirin.
maybe.
Well, then
They're
there's
holsters.
I mean, it's such a, you know, just baby aspirin.
Like Barney Fife, they got it in their pocket, like a moment.
Okay, we're off track.
Yes, we certainly are. Let's
Yeah.
move on. Okay, does anybody have any other comments on the department head reports?
I
Sorry,
was
I
just
brought-
curious, Jackie, how did, I saw where it said CUSD calling a panic.
Oh, yes, they called it a panic because they were having a staff training. And whatever room they were using through the school district was no longer available to them. So we let them use our meeting.
Oh, okay.
We were very nice.
They bring donuts.
No, and we should have brought our staff donuts because we helped set up the room and everything for them with no charge. But I figured it was the school district and
Yeah, I just didn't see the
the room
complete
was
part, like
available, so
the
we-
call and the panic, but I didn't know
Yeah,
that they
she
regularly
did,
use
she
it.
did call in a panic.
Yeah,
She didn't know what she was gonna do with 40 staff members that were coming the next day. for training.
wow, okay, well, they're great. Thank you very much.
Available because the room is booked.
Yeah, it
A
is.
lot.
booked a lot. It was on a, I think it was a Friday morning. And so we let them use it.
Well done, Jackie, for doing so well.
The library to the rescue yet.
I cheered. And did the Warrenville library that comes to the rescue? And it's just.
Yes,
because I
yes.
was at the meet in Warrenville. We must have been.
All right, I'm gonna move on to the president's report, which basically just says next month we meet at 7. And we have the truth and taxation in November, but we're still meeting at 7. Then we'll do that for just a few minutes and then we'll get on to our regular meeting. And then our December meeting is scheduled for December 11th, also at 7. Okay, secretary? No, treasurer.
Everything looks good.
Love to hear secretaries.
Secretary, everything looks good, and I just would like to thank everybody for their best wishes and then for the lovely flowers that were sent, and I'm feeling great.
Good. Good news. We didn't have any committee meetings. Trustee comments?
I have one. I got this really cool little postcards from the ACLU with donation, and it's all on banned books.
Wow.
And on their website, they have a whole section for banned books. It's T-shirts and pins and all kinds of cool stuff for banned, like banned books expand minds and all kinds of cool little things like that. That you can purchase, of course, but
Because.
yeah.
I mean, I think that's funny.
But it's really, I just think it's really cool that, you know, it's all kinds of stuff.
Really funny.
I have
Oh, yeah,
So she must have.
short one.
yeah.
Okay.
I had spent a few hours with appointments at the Naperville Library yesterday. When I pulled into the parking spot, there was a sign that said bike locks available for borrowing inside, and I thought, well, that's a really good idea, so I thought I'd pass it on.
What was?
Bye.
Bike club.
I don't know if we have it or not.
We do not, we have discussed it. And. came to the conclusion that it's not. Partially, I think because we have the two different entrances rather than just the one central entrance. So people running up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
I feel like we want to go backwards. With the word.
Well, next time we discuss it, I'm in favor.
Oh,
I really appreciated the training that we did earlier tonight, and, when I was a special ed teacher, we did those little squares that are the step-by-step directions. And for the life of me, I can't remember what's at the checkout station, you know, when you check out your books out here, and I don't know if we have any step-by-step visual assistance. So that was one thing that was my one little thing, I thought, well, maybe we could do that, and I really like, there's so many, like the noise canceling things, when they're having youth programs, there could be a kid who's really stimulated by, you know, and has a problem with the amount of input, and so that, you know, a box of fidgets and noise canceling things that can just be borrowed or whatnot, and if you could do it sanitation wise and whatnot, I don't know how that works, but I thought there were some really good suggestions that would help us, help more people be very, very comfortable, you know. Is that part of our step two or whatever it is?
Yes. Yes, so, Mary Kelly, Diana and I had met and come up, did some brainstorming, and that we met with. The two folks from Little Friends and went over some of that. So we put it on pause because we were waiting for to get through the training.
Yeah.
So now that we have all done the training, we're gonna talk about it more, but some of the ideas that we had were getting like headphones. Something was looking into a large type for visual impaired keyboard and what's the term, like an ergonomic mouse that could be available for folks to use. And then Diana had suggested before we had the training, the social story would be great to have for the library. Oak Park has one on their website, so it's like she was describing and training the, you know, the photos of like, here's the library, here I am entering the library.
Oh.
Takes a little bit for me to remember to get the first person language, but yeah, here's the entrance. You can go to I can go to the adult department. You know, so that social story of photos of what you're gonna see and expect, and then, you know, the expectations of you can be quiet or play with these various things, or what else, you know, you don't want to get it too involved, but that simple story of what you can expect at the library. And whatnot. So
Speech therapists use those social stories a lot, they're really helpful.
So we're gonna, I think.
that just prompted a question that I have about Paul's report. He met with somebody from the park district regarding a grant for a story walk project at Summer Lakes. Do you know anything about that and what it is? Does any of the staff know what it is?
Is it Summer Lakes?
It was at Summer Lakes.
Or I
This,
thought,
this says Summer Lakes.
we had talked about it, so a story walk is, in parks, or maybe along a prairie path, or something with the arboretum, some spot at arboretum, and every so many feet, there's a story, it's the same story. Ducks go to lunch, whatever, and, you know, like just pages from Ducks Go to Lunch are at several points throughout the walk. And then those stories get swapped out every.
So it's something they stand and read.
Yeah, like
Okay.
as you were traversing whatever
I love it.
space,
I
yeah.
love it. I love it.
I know Glen Ellen has one, it's not in a. It's near like I think their downtown area, and I've seen it more and more in other areas, so.
Yeah, you need I think I don't know who approached you, but he did go over and talk to, someone at the park about it and how to pull it together, so.
And I could be misremembering, but I believe it was, they were giving the grant to, put in the infrastructure for it. And then I think the library is going to then help supply and maintain the storage.
So that'd be something you would create visually.
Well, I had asked Paul, I don't know how this works, like, I don't think we just pulled, what I said, the Duck Family off the shelf and made. Or am I going to get a few titles? That's good, okay, so I believe there's several companies out there that support this. I think based on the structure, like they send you the print that goes in there.
I see, okay.
I think, I would hope. Cause otherwise then, like, it has to make, there would have to be
That
other.
would be a whole different discussion.
Yes, yeah, like how,
Tell us next.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
how this will all, come about, maybe
Okay.
as much as I thought, but yes, there are new things in parks and.
Well, I'm wondering if it was more like, at the Arboretum, they have theater hikes, where you're telling a story and you go to another place and they're
Right.
telling a different part of the story. And it's interactive as opposed to something where you're reading something, so, wow, I still love it, so, yeah.
Sure, right, so it could be interactive.
Totally unrelated question. Do we have any sit to stand desks in the library?
Not
Sit,
that I'm aware.
stand.
That's kind of been.
Curious.
As opposed to my house where I have books piled on top of it.
So then you have to stand in order to be at
Well, I
the,
want to, I want to stand, so I create my
Yeah.
little tier
More and
thing.
more.
It's like, whoa.
all right, I think we're ready for our final motion. Oh, you have something?
Yeah, so I had two things. One, talking about book bans. So there was one comic I saw out there where you had a teacher taking the, from somebody that said, oh, books we want banned, and then going to the class and saying, here's our reading list. And then, also, while I was in the hospital, I thought this was interesting. The floor that I was on had their own little, book group, so I took a picture because I'm like, oh, I'm so curious as to what books they're reading. So anyway, that's it.
Nice.
So.
If you're interested in banning books, all of a sudden I'm blanking out the name of the book club, our book club at Rock Bottom. Books on Tap, thank you. This month is doing
Yes.
2 different books
Yeah.
that have been banned. Looking for Lapka and.
First of being a law firm.
In case you're.
All right, entertaining the final motion.
Come on. Ken.
I'll move to adjourn at, about 8:10.
Second.
Motion was made by trustee Schmidt and seconded by trustee Lazan. All in favor?
Aye.
Voice vote. Any
We can do
opposed?
roll call. We can do
We
roll call.
are adjourned.
Are you sure you don't want to